What's going on, guys? Zers here. We're back with episode 2 on the dangers of transhumanism. So I want to address a couple of things before we get into the topic of today's video, and that's referring to a lot of the comments and the criticisms I received on the first video. I got a lot of comments of people telling me that, or asking me if, these artificial limbs or these robotic limbs should not be used for people who have been amputees or have lost limbs and whatnot. And I have to continuously say that there's no issue, there's no problem with people who need the technology to obtain the technology. I wasn't focusing on the people who need pacemakers or the people who have lost arms or legs or organs or anything like that. I was more referring to the individuals who wish to recreationally obtain this technology, who wish to remove their arms and replace them with cybernetics, not because they have to, but because they want to be superior, more of that kind of area I was really more referring to when I was talking about. Some people try to talk to me about the ethics of transhumanism, try to talk to me about the morality and the religiosity of it, and it's honestly, unfortunately, a waste of time to contest, simply because a lot of people believe that morality is subjective, and if you think morality is subjective, there's nothing to be talked about in that realm, because we're talking about your feelings. So everything you would think would be arbitrary, unless you have a stable basic code for morality, there's nothing to be contested and nothing to be chatted about. Some people want to talk to me about the religiosity of transhumanism, and that's really not what the video series is referring to or focusing on, because in all honesty, there are a lot of other people here on YouTube who talk about transhumanism from a religious point of view, and if you wish to see that, this is not the video series for you. There are other people on YouTube who have documentaries and talk about transhumanism more extensively than I can when it comes to, the religious part of it. Some people talk to me about how, not all transhumanists are arrogant. You don't ever have to explain to me that not everybody is a particular way. While it is indeed true that I talk in generalities, it is because it is easier to talk in generalities, not because I believe that everybody is specific. I understand that not all people who identify as transhumanists are arrogant people, but there are some transhumanists who are arrogant, and the problem with arrogance is that you overshoot your competence and you end up messing with powers that you cannot hope to control. And that is the purpose of this video series. A lot of people came back and talked to me about how there are lots of positive things to transhumanism, as if I did not know that. I do know that. I completely understand that. The purpose is not to talk about the benefits of transhumanism, because again, there are lots of people who've already done that. The point of this video series is to focus on the dangers, the unforeseen consequences of what can happen. I understand that there are positives, that obtaining great strength, by spending a bunch of money to remove your arm and replace it, sounds fantastic. The point is to focus on the unforeseen consequences before we mess with the primordial power we cannot hope to control or deal with. I understand there are benefits to transhumanism. The focus is on the danger here, because no one else is going to. And before we start messing with powers like this, it should be thoroughly fleshed out. That is the purpose of the video series. So again, I understand there are benefits, and there are other people who talk about the benefits of transhumanism. So yeah. Of course, as always, if you don't agree with anything that I say, that's perfectly fine. Just as long as you think about the topic, I will be satisfied. So that being said, let's move on to the topic today. Today we're talking about the artificial womb. And in all honesty, a good friend of mine, Dave Serini, has kind of hit this topic, from pretty much every angle that it needs to be hit. So I suggest after you watch my video, which might be a little bit of a condensed version of his, go watch his and, get the full scope. Today I want to really focus on the fact that it's really more of a luxury. One thing I'm going to start off when it comes to the artificial womb is to talk about how currently we as a society certainly do not need it. Technically speaking, there are more women here in America than there are men. The whole reason why the artificial womb is even being thought of in Japan is because they have a declining birth rate, because a lot of men have decided to not date women and not talk to women, So a lot of some different men going their own way who still wish to be fathers, who are younger men, herald this technology and think it'll be the greatest thing ever because then it will finally disconnect women from, the one thing they can really do here in our system. Well, it's not the one thing, but one of the most important things that women do. We can disconnect them from that, and now men will be able to start using the artificial womb technology to start creating their children. And the interesting thing about this technology, again, is like I said, it really isn't needed here. I mean, a lot of the MGTOWs want to use it to, well, I can't say it's a lot, but the younger ones want to use it so they don't have to deal with women. So the real problem here is women. It isn't the birth rate, it's the fact that there aren't a lot of very good women to be in partnerships with. And the artificial womb is not going to solve that problem. So I think the better focus is to focus on fixing the problem instead of, creating this technology to, reproduce with. Of course, there's the fact that a lot of people will say the artificial womb will be there for infertile women and fertile men to use. Those who don't want to go through the steps of in vitro fertilization or don't want to go through the steps of a surrogate, they will have the artificial womb technology to, more or less grow their children. The problem here is a problem that Davis Arini touched on, I'm going to talk about too, because it's a very important thing here, is we're talking about creating children that don't have a biological connection to their mother and their father. We're talking about a couple who is going to skip the entire bonding process that is pregnancy. A woman's entire physiology changes when she gets pregnant, and it even changes after she goes through a birth itself. Lots of different bonding chemicals are, released into a woman's body when she goes through an entire birth. That's why you'll see a lot of people who have natural born children. And what I mean by that is, at home births definitely have a much tighter and stronger connection than the women who were doped up on morphine because they allow their bodies to go through the pain and experience all of the releases of the different binding hormones like, oxytocin. And so when you create this artificial womb, you have completely disconnected women from that bonding process. Unless the woman is going to stay with the artificial womb for 9 months while it gestates. And actually, we don't even know if the child will grow rapidly. We don't know if it'll take 9 months for the artificial womb to completely generate this child. But we disconnect that from women. We're going to have a bunch of women and a bunch of men who aren't bonded to their children the way natural born children are. Now, of course, this isn't saying that most of our society is even going to use it, because again, there are more women than there are men. So, in all actuality, I mean, women are we're pretty much fine there. The only real reason to have an artificial womb would be, doomsday type of scenario. Ultron wiped us all out, and we'll have to, repopulate the earth. But to be serious, it's really, the only real thing you would need an artificial womb for is in one of those situations where, there aren't any men or there aren't any women, really, and you just have a bunch of sperm, and but even with that being said, you would still need an egg cell, from the woman, and so obtaining an egg cell from a woman, not a lot of women are, really prone to separate themselves from the egg cell. So I mean, at that point, you may as well just get her pregnant, But what I mean is here, it'll be very difficult to get the production of eggs or to obtain eggs from women. So the amount of men who would want to be single fathers would be able to, have their own children. Even then, I still don't even think it's a great idea to create families without mothers. Mothers are a very important part to their daughters and to their sons. Mothers teach women how to be women. Your mother is who teaches you how to become a woman or what it means to be feminine. And of course, one huge problem in our society today is we don't have a lot of really good, mothers in the homes because a lot of them are working because they're single. But that's the role that a mom has. And if you take that away from a daughter, where is she going to learn how to become that woman? If you take away, a mother from a son, how is he going to learn, what are the good qualities that make up a woman? What if he doesn't intend on trying to become a man going his own way? What if he does want to be with a woman? And where is he going to learn that from? If he doesn't get it from his dad, he's going to have to go look for it somewhere else. And I don't think it's a good idea for single people to try to create children that they will not be biologically attached to, because even when you have a couple, a couple of a man and a woman, man gets a woman pregnant and he's there and he's with her, it changes him as well. It changes his physiology as well, not as much as it changes the woman, but it still changes him. He's bonded to the woman because he loves her, and he's bonded to the child because he helped create it. And that's what really creates a huge stable family unit, a bunch of people who really love and care about each other. And if you incorporate a bunch of technology that literally disconnects you from that, we don't really know what the effects of that's going to be. We can create a bunch of children who have a huge difficult time bonding to people around them, bonding to their parents. One interesting thing about a lot of kids who've been adopted, and I don't really know if I don't know I won't go there. That might be a little bit of a false dichotomy, so I'll stop right there. Um, but there has been a huge, I have a huge worry about kids being born, single people using this, bringing children that don't have fathers. A huge worry of women using this without going through the bonding process of pregnancy. I also kind of wonder how they're going to the upkeep for the artificial womb, because I know in early stage of development, it's not going to be. I mean, okay, you can say this is an argument from nature, appeal to nature fallacy here, but millions of years of evolution, you can say that. You can say God created women to carry children. It doesn't matter which way you go. You're talking about thousands of years of women, gestating and taking care of their children and raising them, and keep them in their bodies, eating good nutrition, hopefully, taking care of their bodies. And, the early stages of this, artificial womb will probably not, will pale in comparison to thousands of years of natural gestation, because you're still going to have to flesh out this technology, and we don't know what will happen to these children in these early stages of development when it comes to an artificial womb. It could be superior somehow. You could make it so that the nutrients are a lot more like premium nutrients, I guess you could say. You could try to incorporate that. I don't know how. I haven't really seen a lot of people explaining the technology itself. I've just seen more I guess we're not really close to actually incorporating this technology into human trials, but a lot of people will probably die. Well, a lot of fetuses, to make the liberals feel better. A lot of embryos will die, trying to figure out what will be the proper conditions to artificially create, to gestate human beings. So it'll take a long time to actually get this technology out. But right now, again, my primary concern is what will happen if we create children my biggest worry is creating children born to single parents and born to women who have never had an opportunity to truly bond with their children, and also creating children given to fathers who don't have mothers for their children. Creating those single parent homes. The single parents are never really the best living situations. Well, it's true, I've heard a lot of single fathers definitely do better than single mothers when they do get custody and they are happy and they enjoy it. I still think the best situation is to give the child its mom and its dad, so that way it can, learn both sides of the male and female dynamic. And so that's really my primary concern. I think one thing that really needs to be touched upon is that disconnection from the mother, the disconnection from the family unit that the artificial womb could possibly bring about. And also, on a technicality, it certainly is just not needed for our American society. There are, unless I don't know, we go through some mass extinction event, we would still need frozen eggs anyway, and obtaining frozen eggs is not always the easiest thing to do, because not a lot of women are willing to part with them. There are some women, but I don't know if the production of, or if the acquisition of eggs would be enough to satisfy most of the people who would even have the money to create, these children, or even, purchase an artificial womb. So, yeah, that's all the time I really have. So, until I can, make longer videos. But I want to thank you guys for, listening. Of course, again, if you disagree, by all means, say what you need to say. And, as always, if you like today's video, please, man, go ahead and click that like button. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. comment in the comment box below, and as always, have yourself a great day. I will see you cool cats soon. Adios.